program in about 1 minute. Just a quick reminder again, water only in here. Water only in here. We'll have some things outside afterwards. But do we have all the coaches up here? One more. Who are we missing? Oh, there we are. There we are. Yeah, we'll get started very shortly. Then I'll give you a couple of details here too. Ladies and gentlemen.
Boys and girls.
I don't know. There's no real... Okay, I do have students here. That is true. That is true. Ladies and gentlemen, actually, you know what I should say? Welcome home, Cougars. Thank you for being here. For those who don't know me, my name is Arnie Lim. I'm of the class of 1980 that never was. But I'm also a teacher at Pali. I've just finished my... No, it's okay. I couldn't come back home, I'm sorry. But I've just finished my 31st year there. And I've been asked to... I was asked to help out in organizing this event with the gentleman who's directly to my right here, Mr. Hans Delanoy, who has... And this really has been a labor of love for quite a few months here, just coming to fruition at this point here. I really hope you're having a good time. I am too, and I'm behind the scenes in the organization, so I think this has been amazing. Here we go, let's do this here. Stand up, or at least clap at least, if you're a product of Carboli from the 1950s. Anyone here from there? Who's 50s? Anyone graduated in the 50s? No? Okay, how about the 60s? Who was here from the 60s? There we go. Awesome. How about for the 70s? Who was here in the 70s? Let's do it. Actually, Hans can stand up too, right? And how about those who never graduated from here? Not our fault. Not our fault. If we had our way. Actually, for those of you who did not know this, that board meeting where it was decided, supposedly, Gunn was playing Pali in basketball that night. Passel would know this one better. Matt Passel would know this one better. But someone had proposed at that board meeting that the school that gets closed is the one that loses that basketball game. And Coverly beat Gunn, but they still chose to close Coverly. We'll leave it at that. A couple of thank yous before we move on here. We do need to say thank you to that gentleman in the black who's holding a red Solo cup with something not water there. That's Mr. Tim Sanborn. Tim, class of 1974, catered this event to us here. He has a catering business. He also does all the little leagues around here, the food there. So thank you very much, Tim. It's been great working with you over these years. Is Terry here also? Tim, Terry here? Where is Terry? Is Therese here? We'll have to get Therese Horsting out there. Terry, there you are. Please wave. Therese Horsting, there she is. That's our coordinator for this event here. So say thank you very much to Terry at some point in time. Much appreciated there. A couple of other details we want to make sure we know about. And of course, you see the list of the people who were involved in setting this up. But a couple more things here. There is a brunch set up tomorrow. For those who are lingering in town and would like to just continue this soiree into the tomorrow, and that would be a brunch at Dinah's. Remember where Dinah's is? It's still there, yeah. So 10:30 at Dinah's. If you're interested for brunch there, please do. Also, some of you may not have known this, might have gone right by it, but there is a sign-in book. That was at the registration, and some of you might have registered without signing in. We would like you to please go ahead and do so we can stay in touch with you. Because, I mean, honestly, how often do these events occur? And we really do want to stay in touch. It's harder to do so please help us out with that. What I'd like to do is to give you a quick order of the program here. In specific, we're going to do some coaches' introductions. We'd also like to honor a few people who've made it here for various reasons. Who just made it here because you just love this place. That's all there is to it. So raise your hand or stand up if you came over here from the East Coast. I know we have some of you here. Some people from New York and from other. There we go. That's called being true to your school. Thank you very much for being here. Much appreciated. I think also is Bob Kunzelman here. Bob, what class are you here?
63.
63. I think that may be our oldest one here. Is that right? Anyone precede Bob on that? 63. Awesome. Thank you very much. And then, of course, awesome. 3 of you. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to let Hans take the microphone in a little bit and explain the genesis of this event, because it has gotten to this point where it's actually really kind of an all years event, and I'll tell him that one there. But this really is to honor the coaches. It's a great theme. It's the tie that binds us all together here. And even if you weren't an athlete here, it actually really doesn't matter, because honestly, we Cougars just need to stick together. This is all there's to it. We do. For those of you who did not know the story here, the reason that we're called the Cougars, are you familiar with this one? Yeah, how many of you ever took driver's ed from George Humpty Hurley? Yeah, Hamburger Hurley, right? Yeah. When this place was opened, he was in charge of giving Carverly the mascot. So, George, thinking, this might be kind of fun, he went for the alliteration. Because he is a Washington State graduate, he said, why not? Let's make it the Coverly Cougars. And it stuck. And that's why we have our mascot as the Coverly Cougars. All right. A couple of other things here in homage to some coaches who are no longer with us here. We would like to certainly pay respects to those people. And I have a list of 5 names here, but please shout out other names for those who you know who have passed on. The ones that we know we'd like to pay a tribute to would be, of course, Jim Yelton. Yeah, Jim is an awesome person. Ron Skillicorn is no longer with us. I took driver's ed from him, and he kept asking me to sing with him, too. He had a very good voice. Jan Doggett is no longer with us, also. She passed away right. 2 more names that I know of. Len Doster. Maybe Doster for driving. And also in that vein, if I heard this correctly, is Mr. Keith Clark has passed away. So Keith Clark, yeah. The guy who used to play the guitar when he substituted, right? The Tommyknockers, yeah. Is that right? So Betty Hansen has passed away also. Any other names that we need to pay tribute to? Who? Hal Riddle. Mr. Riddle. Bud Presley. Thank you, yes. Yes. Anyone else you can think of?
Miss Dogger.
Doggett.
Are we talking Jan Doggett? Yeah, Jan Doggett. I took archery from her. You just don't do archery in high schools anymore. But I remember doing those cloud shoots. Remember doing those? Those were fun. Is that right? Okay. We do have some honored guests with us here. One of whom I don't know has shown up yet. Hang on, let me do a little side here. We'll see if we can get a surprise guest in here. So let me just do an introduction of our honored guests in front of us here. In no particular order here, we start with Mr. Bob Bowe. Bob, wave your hand. There we go. Bob was here for 6 years at Coverly, about 58 to 64, somewhere there. He was football, tennis, and golf. So thank you very much, Bob, for being here. Some of you may not know this. The gym over at Gunn High School is actually named after him. Now, it's the Bob Bowe Gym. Yeah. Jerry Hathaway, raise your hand, Jerry. The man in the hat there. Jerry. Jerry is with us here at Coverly for 8 years, 56 to 64 is what it says here. And he was assistant football coach, basketball, baseball, track, and so. So thank you very much for being here, Jerry. Just as a side note here, because I'm a teacher here, I'll go ahead and tell this here, because the hiring practices for teachers is a bit different now, because when you were hired back then, it was almost expected that you coached something. Nowadays, it's not necessarily that case, which is unfortunate, because a lot of our coaches are actually off-campus coaches. Being an on-campus coach does make a difference in the kids' lives. So I really do appreciate this panel that are here, who were all the same in that category here. Next, John Second, where are you? John coached here at Coverly as well as over at Gunn, football, track, and baseball, right? Not just one sport, too. It's really more than one. So again, thank you very much for being here, John. Ron Jones. Ron Jones was here from 66 to 70. He coached basketball. On this card here, it says it's nice to be back. Yeah, thank you very much for being here, Ron. Much appreciated. Yeah. Jack Young. Jack Young, all the way up from Palm Springs. Wave your hand. There we go. Jack doesn't even say here how many years he was at Coverly, but it was probably 3 or 4. Does that sound right, maybe? Something like 3, maybe? Yeah, he was soccer. He did driver's ed, track, PE classes also. He also taught psychology and government. So, back then you could teach other things also if you needed to. So welcome home, Jack. Kay Little. Yeah, this is an awesome one. Kay taught in the district 36 years, is that right? About 36 years?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Wonderful. I'm behind you. I'm behind you here. Coaching swimming here, and it just puts a comment here on the card. She's just so blessed to have taught here in Palo Alto. So welcome, Kay. Thanks very much for being here up on stage. All right. Next in my card order here, Clarence Bakken is up here. Clarence also taught science, of course. But you may not have known that he actually coached basketball also here. He taught here as well as at Pali, and so thank you again for being here, Clarence. Much appreciated. Jay Vieira. Jay Vieira. It says here he was here at Coverly for 10 years or so. He coached football, also soccer and such. Some of you who might have gotten some awards or trophies throughout the times. He actually owns the Palo Alto Trophy Shop now, which is in Mountain View. Well, that's another story, but yeah, he runs the trophy shop with. Where's Barbara Ruppel? Where are you, Barb? Where are you? There we go. Hi there. Yeah. And so if you need to have a trophy done or a plaque or something like that, yeah, go there. Go there. Jay was my coach at Wilbur, and he didn't have a backhand. He's ambidextrous, if you didn't know that there. And so when you play tennis, it was kind of frustrating. You don't hit his backhand. There's no possibility of that. Anyway, thank you very much, Jay, for being here. Stephanie Adcock. Stephanie, also a longtime teacher here in the district, here at Coverly for 4 years specifically here, coaching tennis, badminton, and basketball. So welcome, Stephanie. Gail Jocelyn. Gail did her student teaching here actually also, but then she taught from 68 through the closing here at Coverly, and then you moved around to a few different places, if I remember correctly, because she ended up being a colleague also here in the district with me here. She did gymnastics and swimming and diving. We don't do gymnastics in the district anymore due to insurance liabilities. I know it's kind of a boo, but back then they were awesome teams. They were awesome teams. Yeah. Little comment here. We were a family school. Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here, Gail. should finish the card here. It was one of my best teaching experiences in the district. I was in the district for 44 years. That's amazing, Gail. That's amazing. Bob Peters. Bob was here from 1964 to 78, then he moved over to Gunn High School, known for football, track, wrestling, and playing the piano, and raising money for all sorts of things. Yeah.
Weightlifting.
And the weightlifting too, absolutely, yeah. The hair, that's right. You got a lot of stories to talk about that one there. How many of you saw that movie, Mr. Mom? Or it was Wait Till Your Mother Gets Home, right? Wasn't that it? Wait Till Your Mother Gets Home? Yeah.
Oh, they're the perfect 36.
All right, someone had to bring up the Carol Doda story, yeah. Yeah, we can take that one off stage there, all right? We'll worry about that one later. Last but not least, the co-MC tonight and host here, Mr. Hans Delanoy. Hans is not only a coach here, but he also graduated from here in 1970. He's coached baseball and basketball. Says here, broke my heart when Coverly closed. But he did finish over at Gunn and did successfully there. Then he moved on to San Ramon Valley, where he had quite the glorious career there. And he's still coaching. He coached the women's Dublin varsity this year, too. And they actually beat Pally this year. That's okay with me. I know. When I talked with him at that game, before the game, he said he was kind of torn because, come on, it's Pally and we're playing in the Gunn gym, and it's, so it was kind of awkward there, but that's okay. Well, anyway, glad you're here, Hans. Thanks very much for setting this up. Let me give you the list. Yep, go ahead. Just as a quick order here, what we're going to do here, we're going to have Hans kick it off here, followed by Jerry. Got it, Jerry? You're after Hans, got it? Okay, then Mary. Dr. Mary Cardoza is going to be speaking at that point. Followed by Eric Herzog. Then we're stalling for time, and hopefully we're going to get a special guest I won't announce here yet. Then finishing it up here will be Bob Peters, and then any other coaches who wish to speak, who haven't told us that they want to speak. Okay. Following that, then we will have an open mic. If you would like to say something, by all means do so. If you didn't get that moment with your coach out there, then certainly then would be the time to use the mic. Then we'll do some closing comments. So, without any further ado, I am going to hand the microphone over to Mr. Hans Delanoy.
I'd like to thank Arnie for that wonderful introduction, and I'd just like to correct one thing that he said. We came over here with Dublin High School to play Palo Alto High School in the Northern California playoffs, and it was going to be held at Gunn High School. It was pretty surreal, but I didn't feel strange coming over here. We were coming to our house to kick their ass. And we did. So anyway, people are probably sitting in this audience going, what kind of an idiot would take on this kind of project? Phone calls, emails, Facebook posts. Man, I was posting so much stuff on Facebook. Guys were starting to write back. What the heck is going on here? This is supposed to be a public post. I had to write back to apologize. Took about a year and a half to get this thing going. But to be able to do something of this nature, to be able to honor these coaches, pay a little tribute to them, that's a pretty wonderful thing. See, I grew up across the street. So, Cumberland was my playground. I was here from the age of 10 years old, shooting baskets outside. I still remember the day that Coach Peters pulled up and started moving into his new house. It was right down the street from mine. So we all got to know him. And I can remember that very first day going, "Hey, you're the football coach." And he said, "Yeah," and pulled about 6 old footballs out of his trunk and gave them to us. Man, that was great. All the kids in the neighborhood could play with those footballs. That was just a wonderful gesture. And about a couple years later, when I was a junior in high school, his brother-in-law and sister-in-law came to live with them. And the brother was Bobby O'Connor, and the sister was Betty O'Connor. Bobby was a junior the same year as I was, and Betty was a 9th grader that year. We pretty much became fast and best friends, and all of the athletes hung out at the Peters house. We lived there for 5 or 6 years. Pat Peters fed us. She talked to us. I mean, it was incredible. And the people that I hung out with, the Kuhn brothers, Art, Gene, you want to raise your hands? Bobby O'Connor, Bill Ashworth. The one thing about all these guys were, and Jack Graham, I cannot leave Jack Graham out. Every one of us was a late bloomer. Every one of us lived in the gym or the weight room that was opened by Coach Peters. And every one of us tapped our potential out as far as it could go. On a daily basis, Coach Peters motivated us to work harder, made us believe in ourselves, gave us an idea of how to set a goal for ourselves. So when we set this up, it was something that I had thought many, many years about doing. I had to do something to give back to not only Bob Peters, but also Jim Yelton, my high school basketball coach. Jim Yelton was one of the most selfless people I've ever met in my entire lifetime. I was lucky enough to play for him. As a senior, he used to ask me to come in and help him with the game plan. If I thought of something really stupid and opened my mouth, he never shared it with me. He always made me feel like $1 million. He made me believe in myself. And I am so thankful to have had the honor of playing for him. When I started to coach in 1972, I coached the C basketball team in the fall, and I was going to be the JV coach in the winter. They didn't have a girls coach that year. So I said, okay, I'll work them out, I'll practice with them. After 2 weeks, they still didn't have a girls coach. 2.5 weeks they did. I coached the girls varsity, girls JVs, and boys JVs at the same time. Yeah, it was quite a ride. So I coached pretty much regularly here until 1976. And that fall I coached the C team, but that winter they brought the 9th graders over for the first time ever. So I lost my JV job to the junior high school coach. I was going to assist that person. I had no problem with that. I wasn't going to get paid. Coach Yelton answered an ad in the paper that Los Altos High School had. They were looking for a freshman basketball coach. Set up an interview for me. Said, you got to go take a look. They'll pay you for this. I sit down, I talk to them. They offered me $600 to coach their freshman basketball team. I almost jumped through the roof. I couldn't contain my excitement. $600 was a lot of money. To do something that selfless was incredible. I was very fortunate. We were told we had the worst freshman group they'd seen in 10 years. Yeah, they told me they were terrible. Didn't make any difference. It's just coaching basketball is going to be fun. The one thing we never counted on, we were coaching against people that wanted to practice an hour a day. They were retired shop teachers, retired counselors. And we're out there 2.5 hours a day. We're out there scouting. We're practicing on Friday nights. We turn around, we go 13-1, we win the league, and I have a handicapped freshman on my team that's 16 years old. His dad is a Palo Alto superintendent. So the guy's talking me up like crazy. The next year, I got the opportunity to take the varsity job. Coach Yelton said he wanted to retire. Said, I'd like to take I'd like to see Hans take the job. So I became the basketball coach at Cubberley High School. I'll take you through what that last week was like when they made the decision to close it down. On Monday night, Sunday night, 300 students slept in the gym to show their love and solidarity for the high school. The other high schools weren't doing that. On Tuesday, we had this incredible rally because we were playing Gunn High School that Tuesday night. Cubberley High School had never won a basketball championship. We were going into that game 11-0. We'd not lost all league season. There had been so many things said at school board meetings, it was unbelievable. People were a little tense. Nobody knew how they were going to behave. So after we talked to our students about behaving, we did a little cheer for Gunn High School. And I got up and told them, I said, this is what somebody said at a school board meeting. We all know that Pally's the best, Gunn's the second best, and Cubberley doesn't even rate. We did a little cheer for them. It was easy. We rate, clap your hands twice, we rate. It was the greatest cheer I've ever been associated with in over 40 years of high school. It took me 6 hours to pull my stomach out of my throat. We play Gunn, the game goes back and forth. It's unbelievable. It is a war. Gunn gets a last second shot, they miss, we win. We're 12-0. Headed to play Peterson in the league championship on Friday night. We hustle down, get to the school board meeting. The school board president stands up and goes, in the fall of 1980, Cubberley High School will be closed. The Cubberley students will go to Gunn or Pally. That Wednesday, we have a school-wide assembly. There are staff members crying, students crying, teachers crying. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I was lucky enough to be one of the people that got up and spoke that day. The kids started doing the We Rate cheer, but you could hear the hurt in their voice. You could hear them almost starting to cry. It was unbelievable. So now it's Friday afternoon. We're playing Peterson. They're 12-0, we're 12-0. The game starts at 7:30. At 4 o'clock, there's not a seat left in the gym. They're black and gold, we're black and gold. The gym was a sea of black and gold. Our JV's got a standing ovation for standing up to go get dressed. Finally, their game ends, and we come running onto the floor. The ovation is thunderous. It is so loud in the gym. One of my players told me, Coach, we couldn't even hear the balls bounce. Well, we lost that game by 7 points. But it didn't matter, because we're going to beat them in the playoffs. So we go to the playoffs. We pound Los Altos. Ironically, those were the kids that played for me when they were freshmen. Played Peterson. At the end of 32 minutes, the score is 52 Peterson, 52 Cubberley. Has to go overtime. First overtime period, our center, Eric Rosenberg, steals the ball, dribbles the length of the floor, and flushes a dunk to put us up by 2. He tears the basket down. They have to run out with a ladder to prop it back up. Now, if you can imagine a basket swaying like this, while 5,000 people were on their feet screaming. It was an environment that was just electric. At the end of 38 minutes, it was Peterson 58, Cubberley 58. We got to go one more overtime period. And at the end, Peterson had 62 and we had 60. We lost in double overtime for the league championship. The next morning, we go to the at-large meeting. The committee decided to take Saratoga. Our season was over. Our school was closing. It was a heartbreaking time. I remember being at home with one of my buddies. One of my players calling me and go, "Hey, how come we didn't get in?" My voice broke. Got off the phone, gushed tears, just cried like a baby. Never cried after losing again. Coached 35 varsity seasons as a head coach. Never cried after losing a game ever again in my lifetime. There is something so special about the community and the spirit that we had at Cubberley High School. And tonight, it is evident here. That was my motivation for putting together this evening. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all the coaches for being here. And I very much want to thank Bob Peters and Jim Yelton for everything they've done in my lifetime. Thank you very much. Now, I'd really like to say something witty right now, but I'm looking for Arnie.
Where's Arnie?
Where's Arnie? Who's next?
Hathaway.
Ready, Jerry? Okay, I'd like to introduce Jerry Hathaway. Now, this is incredible. This is one of the most exciting things ever. Jerry coached at this school in 1956. To be able to get somebody with his background to speak is just going to be magical. Thank you so much.
I have a few remarks, but they're not about me. They're about the outstanding, dedicated athletes that we had at this school at least the first 4 or 5 years. I was a teacher at Palo Alto High School in 1955-6 when Dr. Jim Lawrence was appointed principal, and he came to me and asked me if I would come over to Cubberley and be the head of the business department and be an assistant coach in football, basketball, baseball, and track. I said, yes, I would love to. Bob Jones was appointed the first head football coach. In fact, he coached all 4 of those, all 3, I should say, football, basketball, and track the first year or 2. In the fall of '56, we had only sophomores and juniors. There weren't that many Cougars. And somebody said that George Hurley had come from Washington State. That was a Cougar. That's true. And George, incidentally, was a player in the National Football League for several years with the Boston Redskins, which then became the Washington Redskins. And then George was the head baseball coach here. In the first year, in the fall of '56, we had no seniors. There were a number of schools such as Los Altos, Sunnyvale, Camden, Westmore. We played Westmore twice with no seniors. We also played Live Oak, the Sarah JVs, and the Bellarmine JVs, and Washington High School in Fremont. We went 8 wins and 1 loss that year, losing only to Camden by 6 points. When we played Washington High School in Fremont, it was a night game over there, and they were coached by a young man who had graduated from San Jose State in 1955. His name was Bill Walsh. Towards the end of the game, Ted Tollner was our quarterback for 2 years here. But towards the end of the game, we were at midfield, a couple minutes left, we were behind by 6 points, and all of us, we were driving, and all of a sudden Ted said, "Time out." He came over and said, "What are you doing, Ted? We're on a drive, and we got 2 minutes, we got to win this game." He says, "Coach, I lost my contact lenses." He couldn't see very well without them. So the officials gave us extra time, and all the players, the coaches, and the officials were down there looking in the grass at night, and obviously we never found the contact lenses. So Bob Jones says, "Ted, can you see the goalpost down there? We were in midfield." Ted says he squinted, and he said, "Yeah, I think I see him." "Okay, get the snap, drop back, and throw the ball." We knew he could throw it 50 yards without a problem. Okay, Mike Nichols, he was a very fast, good football player as an end. He was a high jumper in track. "Mike, you get down there as fast as you can, and Louis Suigamoto, a halfback, you get down there also and see if you can't come down with this pass." Okay, the ball was snapped, Ted dropped back, he threw the ball towards the goalpost, and sure enough, Ted and Louis were down there, but he threw it a little high. Ted couldn't catch it, but he put his fingers up and he deflected the ball. In the meantime, Louis had been knocked down by a defender, and where did the ball come down? Right in Louis' arms on the ground. Touchdown, we won the game 14-13 against Bill Walsh. That fall or winter then, in 56, 57, was the basketball season. And we won our first 14 games. We went 15 wins and 2 losses. We lost only to Castro Valley and to Camden. In the spring then of 57, it was time for baseball. Well, George Hurley took the varsity, and guess what he took from the sophomores? The best ones, and I had the sophomore baseball team. So I did a poor job of coaching, plus we didn't have very good players. But we had one named Ralph Wenzel, who was a good batter, and it's been 60 years, but I think he was my catcher. But he finished school, went on, did not play baseball, but Ralph finished 7 years in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers and 4 years with the San Diego Chargers. So he turned out to be a pretty good athlete. In track, Don Castle replaced Ted Tollner. Don Castle was a good football player, and he was a good track man. He was through the shot put. In 1961, Castle threw 65 7 3/4 inches, which at that time was the all-time best throw in the nation for a high school student in 1961. That's enough for all that, but I would like to give you a few remarks on one person that I felt was the best high school athlete that I ever had anything to do with, and that was Ted Tollner. He graduated from Cubberley in '58, and he went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, played 4 years there as their quarterback and pitcher in baseball. He was a tremendous pitcher for George Hurley here at Cubberley. In 1960, Cal Poly went to Bowling Green in Ohio. After the game that day, they got on the airplane, it was foggy, the plane went down the runway, and reports on the internet said it got up to 100 feet. Suddenly the left engine stopped immediately, and the plane flipped on its side, crashed on the end of the runway. It threw people all over. It killed, there were 48 people on board. It killed 22 people, and 16 of those were players from Cal Poly. Ted, it was threw him out in the middle of the runway. When they found him, he was still strapped into his seat. He had serious left ankle and lower leg injuries. They thought at first they would have to amputate, but fortunately they did not. That was in 1960. 2 years later, Ted, pitching for Cal Poly, was very good, and he represented the USA in '62 in the Pan American Games and won a baseball game. He coached after Cal Poly at Woodside High School in '63, then College of San Mateo, and then he skipped around various colleges, and he was appointed head coach at USC from '83 to '86, and in '84 won a Rose Bowl against Ohio State. But he made one mistake. He lost 3 years to UCLA and 3 years to Notre Dame. And somehow the alumni didn't think that was very good, so they canned him. After that, Ted became, in '94 to 2001, 7 years as the head football coach at San Diego State. And in between all this, over the years, he was an NFL assistant for 15 seasons. As, for example, he was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers 1 year, for the Lions, and for the Chargers. So that was the best example that I could give. And we had many, many fine athletes. Mike Nichols, I mentioned, was a tremendous athlete. We had a sprinter, Ernie Stevenson. 2 years in a row here at Cubberley, he was the fastest 100-yard sprinter in Northern California. Ran 9.8 2 years in a row. And we also had David Kilborn, who was a tremendous hurdler and a good football player. So thank you very much for allowing me.
Tonight, we also have the pleasure of having two of our esteemed alumni and alumnus come back to speak for us. And so our first guest speaker is going to be Mary Cardoza. And Mary was my statistician, my scorekeeper, my team mom, my psychiatrist, etc. When I coached here at Cubberley High School, she worked with us for 3 years. She went on to, it was Yale, right? And she is now a doctor with Kaiser. And, no? John Muir, my bad. But anyway, a couple years ago, we got a chance to reunite, and we've kept in touch. Just a great lady with two great daughters, and I'd like to introduce Mary Cardoza.
Can you hear me?
Closer.
Closer? Like right there? Okay. So I'm following quite an illustrious crowd. Very exciting to hear about all of Cubberley's history going back so far. Hopefully you'll indulge little bits of trips down memory lane. The last time I gave a speech at Cubberley was in June of 1979 at the final graduation from Cubberley. I had the privilege of being in the last class to graduate from Cubberley. And the only class to be at Cubberley for 4 years. So we thought we were pretty special. A lot of the poignant memories of senior year, Hans has already alluded to, having to do with the school closing, basketball. For our class, it made it a it actually made it a pretty incredible senior year, sad but incredibly memorable. I paid tribute to the people here who were the class of 1980, 81, 82, who didn't get that Coverly diploma. I think they really missed out. We're here to celebrate coaches, Coverly Athletics, and I think part of what made Coverly such a great school, obviously one of the best schools in the country academically. When I went to Yale, I was way better prepared than most of those kids from those fancy Eastern prep schools. And it served me well my whole life in school. But I have to say the athletics here, you know, I was fortunate, I was kind of a nerdy kid and made a great scorekeeper for basketball, but decided if I wanted to go to an Ivy League school, I should probably get a couple varsity letters. So I went out for track and cross country and was probably the worst person on either one of those teams. But I have to say some of the coaches here, Coach Young, Coach Peters, we were all treated exactly the same. The fact we were out there trying, giving our best was really important. And I was lucky that I then went on to college and actually got to play collegiate athletics and got to continue in athletics beyond college. And I don't think I would ever have done that if I hadn't been in a place like Coverly where I was so encouraged to do that. You talked about all those great athletes from early years. I don't think an event like this can go by without mentioning what we all believe would have been Coverly's Olympian, one of the best prep 440ers in the country. When I was a senior in high school, won the state meet, went on to USC, would have competed for the U.S. In the Olympics if we hadn't had the Russian boycott, or the boycott due to Russia, the Russian Olympics. So I want to, pay homage to Bill Green, class of 70. And just want to say it's amazing to see people from so many years, and very grateful that I'm a Cougar, and I'll always be a Cougar. And thank you to Hans and all these coaches. Really appreciate it.
At this time, I'd like to introduce somebody who, on a yearly basis, does something to perpetuate the memory of Coverly High School and the spirit of Coverly High School. In many ways, he is Mr. Coverly for all the things that he does to keep the memory of Coverly alive. Mr. Eric Herzog.
Thank you, Hans. Glad all you guys could be here from 76, of course. Our 43 union is coming up in a couple weeks. We know you'll all be there. Next year, of course, we will have the 76 plus or minus reunion at my house, which we've had for, I don't know, Julio, I think it's been about 12 years. Wasn't my idea. Julio Garcia and Kurt Tasher volunteered my house. Been that way ever since. But on a more serious note, I'd like to thank all the coaches. All of us, whether we're parents, whether we've been in business, small business, big business, high tech, low tech, it doesn't matter what you do. Business is a team sport. And it's because of these coaches, all of us are better parents, better businessmen, better educators, whatever we do in life, it's because of these coaches here on stage. They taught us how to be team players. They taught us how to never give up. No matter what you do, to fight, to fight, to fight, to win the game. And all of us know, no matter what you do, whether it be in a giant corporation, whether it be something you do at home, it's all about winning the game, teaching your kids what's the best thing in life. It's because of these coaches who've educated us on what we need to do to make everything better for our kids, for our families, for our businesses. So I'd like to thank all the coaches for everything they've done for us and how they've helped us in our lives. And if it wasn't for these coaches, most of us would not be as good as we're doing, whether it be with our kids, whether it be in our companies, or whatever we do in life. It's because of these coaches on stage and what we got from Coverly High School. Thank you.
Is Dave Benzer in the audience?
It's right here.
Benny, come on up. Want to speak?
Come on, Hans, I just got down doing a baseball game, man. We should be talking together.
Well, half of these people don't even know me.
I know ya! I know
All
ya!
right, Dave Benzer, class of 1972. The cameraman for the San Francisco Giants. He has started a huge foundation called Strikeout Fear to help for cancer. He was a stage 4 cancer patient. He's beat that. He's got things going all over the country. And we're lucky enough to have him here today to speak to us. So, thank you.
I think he's got the wrong guy. Oh, this is kind of an honor. I mean, Copperly has taught us so many things, and it's really nice to stand tall to be behind something like this. And Hans putting this together with all our old coaches, who, like the past said, who has really instilled us about being a winner and proud of really